They didn't get note that she was on the 24th. Yeah, of February. Yeah. So I've heard from that a couple of times. And you could just tell she's no.
Now it's on. Okay, we'll leave her on. So we have a very short agenda here in this session. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq people, and we want to thank the Mi'kmaq people of today for their ancestors, welcoming and showing our ancestors around, whether it was 400 years ago or 4 years ago. We are all treaty people. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is the public hearing part of the process for our municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. And the history of this is that we were told in 2018, I believe it was, or 19, by the province that all municipalities in the province had to have a planning strategy and a land use bylaw. And it got delayed several times by COVID and a few other things. But we are moving along now, and we've had Upland Consulting has been working with our municipality to put together this, what we're looking at tonight. And so a number of public meetings were held in December, and then there was another series held earlier asking people what they would like to see in the land use bylaw and the municipal planning strategy. So there has been quite a bit of input. You could always have more for sure, and we have more here tonight, so appreciate the people that are here. Obviously there's enough concern in our county to look at this and hopefully come up with the right answers. But tonight is about hearing from you, the public, on what is out there. It's been reviewed some by our planning committee, and they've made some changes, and council's made some changes, and there's always room for more change. It's just you know, trying to find sometimes a happy medium, but trying to get what's right for our county. So tonight we have an opportunity for the public to speak. We have two people who have registered to speak. They will go first, but if somebody else wants to, it's open after that. Now the process is that you have 5 minutes, and Adam is going to be running the timer down here, I take it. I was told he was anyway. So, but we'll give you a warning at the when you have 1 minute left. So try and summarize what you want to say in that 5 minutes. And it's not a time to debate. It's a time to give your input, and councillors can ask questions of clarification. But we're not getting into a debate. That will come after this public hearing session, then it goes to second reading, which is in our regular council meeting that follows this. That's the point at where any changes will be debated. And if there are significant changes, then it goes back to first reading again, which means we start the process over. We have a deadline right now of the end of March to have this into the province. So you can only, with 2 weeks notice and whatnot, advertising, you can only fit things into so tight a time, but it's more important that we get it right than we do whether we make the time restriction or not. We're trying to make the time restriction, or the time limits the province is set, but the most important thing is to get it right, or as right as what we can from sensing from what the public has to say. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to call on Audrey Buchanan, who's the first listed speaker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Audrey Buchanan. I'm the Assistant Director of Engineering and Public Works for the town of New Glasgow. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the town of New Glasgow, and in particular, the town of New Glasgow Water Utility. As a level 4 water treatment plant operator and a professional engineer who has been protecting the Forbes Lake watershed since 1998, I recognize the challenge of maintaining and treating a source water, and understand that if I do not protect this resource to the highest standard possible, it can threaten the life and health of our customers. The protection of this critical source water is essential for the town of New Glasgow, the town of Westville, and parts of the municipality of the county of Pictou, who we deliver potable water to daily. The water utility wants the MOPC, during this second reading of your MPS and LUB documents, to implement important changes to your current draft that ensure the full protection of the Forbes Lake watershed, the designated watershed, as we have requested to you and your consultant on December 17th, January 29th, and February 24th. The town has been protecting their source water for decades, and in 2003, we designated the Forbes Lake watershed under the Environment Act. To achieve this goal, we had to work extremely closely with the residents of the watershed, and have continued these close relationships for decades. The county residents of this watershed continue to understand the importance of this natural resource and have done their best to respect the area, trying to preserve the natural integrity and pristine water quality. The town does recognize that watershed designation has limitations in protecting the surface water, and that the town's abilities to enforce the full degree of protection upon the lands are located within the municipality of the county of Pictou. They're hindered by the municipalities not having land use bylaw and municipal planning strategies that fully support a designated watershed. The current draft LUB and MPS documents do not have consistent language between the two documents that fully recognize the level of protection needed to protect a designated watershed. The MOPC Planning Advisory Committee did offer the town the extension of their shoreline S1 zone to the Forbes Lake primary watershed in the LUB document. The controls under the S1 zone are very much appreciated for our secondary watershed, but for our primary watershed, the S1 zone has the following issues. It has contradictory language between the LUB and MPS documents, which still permit non-designated uses in the designated water, such as allowing industrial, commercial uses, and hobby farms. The current LUB and MPS documents can be altered by development agreements. Although we very much appreciate and respect your planning and development staff, it is subject to staff turnover, and the intention of the current LUB wording can be lost with this staff turnover. So we are asking for clarity, defined restrictions within the primary watershed that cannot be altered by development agreement. The current restrictions within the designated watershed rely on MOPC development staff to follow Forbes Lake designated regulations, which is not an ordinary step in the MOPC development. and could easily be missed. Once missed, the town will not be able to stop MOPC development that is contrary to our regulations. The town needs the upcoming LUB and MPS documents to include a full overlay layer for the Forbes Lake designated watershed that limits land use to residential, prevents heavy industrial, commercial,
Excuse
and
me,
agricultural,
Are we at the 4-minute mark that I'm showing there?
other than existing uses, to mirror the restrictions the town has in place through our Forbes Lake designated watershed under the Environment Act. In closing, we cannot wait for amendments to these documents to be implemented. These are vital changes that we need to have in place. It's not just for the town of New Glasgow, but for all of your MOPC water customers that we supply daily. We appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. Are there any questions of clarification for Audrey? Go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
Hi. Just through you, Mr. Chair. Is there a better zoning in the document as it persists now?
As it stands now, you do have overlay areas in your current plan, and if it was called an overlay for the Forbes Lake designated area, it would allow the restrictions to be clearly seen in the document. Right now, they're just blended in. They're not necessarily a full overlay that has to be enforced.
Okay, and any further questions? Okay, thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our second person who's applied to speak tonight, Lynn Kennedy.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, Okay. The municipal planning strategy states that the province is requiring all land to be the subject of land use controls. Before I say anything further, the province and the municipality may have the authority to plan, but they cannot legally zone our properties with anything they want to from now or any time in the future without first receiving our express written permission to do so. The planning strategy mentions the words development and development agreement a lot. Development, per the bylaw definition, basically means that we can't do anything on our own property without first getting permission to do so. In the meantime, development agreements cover everything, which disturbs me, because would we always be notified? And if so, I wonder how much weight the public input would actually have. In other words, could the public stop large-scale housing developments in order to preserve our rural small-town atmosphere? And I'm assuming that the comprehensive development districts are for the purpose of more housing development. With its emphasis on active transportation, walking, cycling, running, and its reference to district, I had concern that this could be the building of complete communities. Please tell me I'm wrong. And why all this emphasis on new development in a rural town when the emphasis should be on securing our farming industry and agricultural lands, especially since active farms have been declining? Further, there's a serious contradiction between Planning Strategy Section 133 and Policy 330 and Bylaw 5.5, such that the planning strategy states prohibiting the removal of topsoil in areas of good agricultural soils, while Policy 330 and Bylaw 5.5 add to this, except for removal incidental to an approved development, and except for excavation associated with the construction of buildings and infrastructure. Very upsetting. Further, regarding farmland and individual property owners, we have to look at policies 3 to 7 and 3 to 8 of the planning strategy, whereby there would appear to be a great reduction of property value or outright expropriation if there's deemed to be a clear need benefiting the collective over the individual property, such as enabling the development of a major economic initiative. And I'm so against zoning, period, because zoning could also cause the same detriment to farmland and individual property owners, i.e. property suddenly being deemed a conservation zone or residential community zone, etc. And is zoning going to prevent the severing of our own properties to give to our children or for other purposes? And why the conservation zone and wilderness area protection? We belong in nature. To actually protect all our natural lands, the disbursement of chemtrails in our skies, also adversely affecting wind and solar, needs to be stopped. See Dane Wigington Geoengineering, as well as the spraying of glyphosate-based products need to be banned. Energy, wind turbines. 5 years from now, we're supposed to have 80% of our electricity coming from renewable sources such as wind and solar. Apparently great for the environment, yet to create these things, we're digging up Earth's minerals like never before. Iron ore, coal, limestone, copper, cobalt, lithium. One wind turbine requires 900 tons of steel, 2,500 tons of cement, 45 tons of non-recyclable plastic, and solar power farms require even more cement, steel, and glass. And the mining isn't taking place here for the most part. It's taking place in China, Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, the Congo. And of course, they're not unionized, even using child labor. What they're also digging up is radioactive material that has to be disposed of. Nearby communities are getting sick. So, from mining to processing to transport and assembling, fossil-fueled heavy equipment, machinery, trucks, and cranes are used. And then what about the overwhelming environmental waste these unrecyclable renewable sources will cause after about 20 years, but many already reaching their lifespan? Wind turbines spoil the natural... Wind turbines spoil the natural environment below them. They kill bats and birds. And what about our health and safety? They destroy the beauty of our landscapes and the peaceful enjoyment of our own properties. However, they are a horrific assault on our health. A class action lawsuit by all the municipalities against the province, along with all the community support, should take place. These wind turbines must be banned. Look up Downwind, a wind farm documentary on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay.
So we have the opportunity here for...
See if anybody wants questions.
Oh, yes, thank you. Are there any questions for clarification on Lynn's presentation tonight? Any questions for clarification? Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
Thanks very much for your presentation. I was just wondering where you got your your resources from, where that.
The resources for what?
For your report, like that, where you're saying about all the minerals and that's being taken out of the ground.
Oh, it's I should have brought what I had. I guess
that's
I
all.
just figured it was easily accessible to find out. Like nobody generally asks about how they're made, what's the material used, the mining. No one, but it's online if you look it up.
Yeah.
Like, would there be spam? Like official sites or, sites that are reputable will say what's actually going on with the wind turbines in terms of the construction and the mining and all that.
Thank you. Well put together. Thank you.
Okay, all righty.
Okay, not seeing any other hands. Careful, I don't want to injure anybody here. I'm going to call for anybody else in the audience tonight that has a question on our municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw as it's been presented. Is there anybody who wants an opportunity to speak? These two were registered, and we did receive, I believe, 13 by writing or email, so we have those to consider as well. And councillors have received all those that were received in writing. Okay, I see a hand at the back. Do you want to step up to the mic, please, and give us your name?
I'm pretty loud, so I can just stay really
Yeah. Now, it has to be recorded, yeah.
I just have one question.
Could you give us your name, please, first?
My name is Ruth,
Ruth.
and I live here in Pictou. My last name is Link.
Okay, but you're a resident of the town of Pictou?
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is for the municipality, but you go ahead.
I'm just asking a question for the developers. Is this the strategy that you've implemented? Is this part of the Federal Sustainable Development Act's goals? I'd like to know the answer to that, because if it is, they are following rules and regulations that are set out by NGOs, and they don't have the best interests of the local communities in mind. They have an agenda to follow, and we need the answers for that to make sure that our health and safety is going to be protected in the areas in which we live. And that's my question.
Okay, I'll turn that over to Mr. Cullen, if he can answer, because I can't, we were under direction from the province to implement, you know, a strategy and bylaw, and I don't, they, perhaps Ian could as well, he's here tonight with Upland. Do you want to speak to that, Ian, as to? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so this project is arising out of legislation that was passed by the province in 2018. There's minimum planning requirements now. Previous to 2018, planning was optional in Nova Scotia. Municipalities that did plan had to meet certain standards, their statements of provincial interest and everything in the Municipal Government Act, but prior to then it was optional. Legislation passed in 2018, Bill C-58, I want to say, required all municipalities to plan and to meet minimum standards in that planning. The standards are fairly minimum. You have to have statements on various things, on industrial lands, on residential lands, on commercial lands. You have to meet the statements of provincial interest on things like drinking water. But otherwise, it's fairly broad what's required. It's meant to be a local solution. So that mandate is coming directly from the province.
Where did they receive their mandate from? Are they receiving this from the federal government?
Not that I would have no awareness of that.
But you are developing, you're the representative as Upland?
That's correct.
So you just receive your information from the province, but you don't know where they're getting it from?
I receive my direction from the municipality, who takes their direction from the province as the holder of the Municipal Government Act,
Okay, so our question should be going to the federal government level?
or to the provincial level.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions this evening? I should have mentioned before from residents of the rural municipality. Okay, hearing none, these subjects that were brought up tonight and others will be considered later in our meeting that starts at 7 o'clock this evening, and there is a piece in there for second reading. And if there's any reason why we can't move to second reading, then like I said before, it'll go back through the process again, and we'll deal with any of the changes, including the 13 written submissions, as well as the two that we heard here, 3 that we heard here tonight. Thank you very much for coming. I declare the meeting adjourned.